Hey everyone, welcome to the Permission Portal with Paul Mark and Laz. I'm Paul Mark.
And I am Laz. Let's open the portal.
Today we have a special guest and a friend to the show. She's a trauma-informed integration coach, tantra guide, and space holder for the curious souls at the beginning of their awakening. Welcome, Mandy Witters, to the portal.
What's up,
Yay!
Mandy?
Hello, hi Paul Mark. I'm excited to be here.
Good to
I'm
have you.
happy to see you. Huh.
Good.
I'm actually curious about your tantra and yoga work. Tell me a little bit about that. How did that start?
Sure. All roads lead back to ayahuasca. It's kind of become a catchphrase of mine. So, long story short, I had a really beautiful first experience with ayahuasca. I had this orgasmic bliss with God. I came back to and immediately felt a ton of shame, a lot of resistance. And ultimately, I go to the shaman. I'm like, how do I fix this? What do I do? And her first suggestion was looking into Tantra. And my response to that was that weird sex stuff. And she said, okay, maybe Tantra isn't what you need right now. I suggest looking into Kundalini yoga. So I'm like, okay, I've tried all this yoga nonsense before, type A person running a business of probably at that point like 20 or 25 employees. So I'm like, okay, I'll try this thing called Kundalini yoga. And I go to my first class and I absolutely hate it. It's a bunch of weird hippies chanting mantras, and then they're doing things with their fingers and their hands and their bodies for like multiple minutes. And I'm being told, doing this will help you release anger. And I'm like, I'm just getting angry thinking about it. But I made the commitment that I was going to do it 3 days a week for 90 days because if this shaman lady in Mexico said so, I wanted to just take the like cosmic hint. And in that 90 days, I got to experience magic for the first time. I got to experience energy for the first time. And slowly that unraveled me to be more open to Tantra, which came about 2 years after my, no, a year after my Kundalini exposure. So that's a little bit of that.
Hmm.
So, how do you help people slow down and tune in?
Yeah, the first thing that we need to remember is that our breath is essential. I can tell right now, like pause, pull back, physical scan is a tool that I really, really use. And being able to use that to slow down is my reminder to breathe. As soon as I'm pausing, I'm just taking that inventory of like, what is my breath doing right now? And if it's very fast, if it's very chest based and not so much belly or kind of a 360 expanded, it's my reminder of, okay, I'm not going slow. How could I expect my client to go slow? How could I expect the people that I'm with to slow down? And I've always loved the phrase like leaders go first. If I'm helping guide, that's a form of leadership. And therefore, I get to set the example of slowing down with just the breath. I would say that's my biggest way of stepping into that place of slowness.
So I have a question. Your work seems to be rooted in subtlety and reconnection with the deeper self. So
How does that happen? So you can reach enlightenment a million different ways.
Right.
So the way to that realization of your depths can look a whole bunch of ways. For me, it started with plant medicine. For other people, it might start with just an experience at the grocery store, seeing an altercation where it just changes your life. So like it can be what I guess I'm getting at is it's in those spaces of the mundane that we can really find the ability for that to happen.
yeah. So your work, it seems to be, I know you, but for the people, rooted in subtlety and reconnection with the deeper self. How does that?
Yeah. So from my personal experience, because I won't talk to a ton of like others' experience, I find that stillness it's that place of discomfort for me. Stillness is really uncomfortable. When I was younger, I was that hyperactive, almost got put on Ritalin child where I'm like bouncing off the walls. And that energy is still very alive in me. And working in polarity, you look at the opposite. If movement is one end of the coin, then that stillness is my medicine. It's my layer to be able to get to that depth or that ability to see myself. Whereas other people, it's seeing, again, you're looking at either the shadow elements, and the way that I define shadow is those things that we describe as not even a part of ourselves. Like some people want to say it's those icky parts that I know about, but I just don't like. It's the ones that we deny completely. So when we subscribe to one set of identities, it's exploring the opposite that I find also can really help lead you into that depth. I think that's a lot of what's coming up with a lot of the gender exploration. Like one of the biggest polarities that we have in our society is going to be being able to see, what does it feel like to be feminine in energy? What does it feel like to be masculine? And what does it feel to be like in the in between? And the only way that I get to then touch that from my own experience is that stillness.
Mm. And so the shadow work helped you go a little bit deeper into sexuality and sensuality.
Mm-hmm.
And what did that journey look like?
Yeah, that's it. It unraveled at first very slowly with Kundalini, and then very quickly, I shook a bottle and it just finally exploded. So the first year was being able to even like get in touch with the concept of energy. I remember there being a point where I I literally just sat down to my Kundalini practice. I'm just sitting in easy pose, which is a cross-legged position. And all of a sudden my fingers felt like they were asleep. And I'm like, that's bizarre. Like I'm just sitting here. Like I haven't been here for minutes holding a pose. I haven't been doing anything. It's literally me just sitting down and I'm feeling this buzzing. And I had the question come across my mind of, what if that's what energy feels like? What if that buzzing is this energy thing that I've been thinking about? And ever since then, when I want to feel the energy in my body, I just tune into, where do I feel buzzing? So that was some of the first subtle layers, is I had to admit to myself that I believed in this concept of energy, the unseen, and that I could even feel it in ways that never made sense to me logically or through my mental schemata making structure, meaning making structure. And from there, that's when I started feeling a little bit more confident to step into these more woo-woo places. And as I kept doing that, slowly but surely, it kept moving me into, okay, let's go into more sensual spaces that aren't necessarily sexual, but still have a level of touch that I was not comfortable with. Like cuddle puddles were something that were very foreign to me. The idea of going to a place where you could get platonic touch, when that type of touch to me was only reserved for my romantic partners. So step one was feeling some sort of energy, some sort of new connection to myself, and then starting to feel safe in new connection or new types of connection with other people. And then ultimately that got me to this very interesting set of circumstances. I was living with my ex-boyfriend. We were in the process of breaking up and him moving out. So I was doing a lot of social activities so I could get out of the house and just give that space. A friend of mine took me to this party and it was supposed to end at midnight. It's like 2, 3 in the morning. And all of a sudden I look over and there's some sexy activity happening like a couple inches from my head. I freak out internally. I freak out. I look at my friend. It's time to go. This isn't the party I signed up for.
No.
And immediately the next morning, I'm like, why was I afraid of that? Like, why? Like, I'm an adult. Like, I've seen images and videos and real life activities like that before. Like, why did I feel this like sense of fear or contraction? And lo and behold, I'm going through Instagram and a friend of mine posted what is called a temple party, which is supposed to be this sacred space for sexual devotion or energetic exploration or just being able to like get okay with your sexuality or your sexual expression. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to try and do that. And before you know it, I've gone to 3 parties in a month. I've signed up for a week-long Tantra training, and I booked going to an international Tantra festival like within a 2-month period. So like I went from like, oh, this is scary to like do all the things very, very quickly.
You really opened up the floodgates with that.
Yeah.
2023.
2023.
That's crazy how I can pinpoint that. Dope. So, is there any religious connection to what you did or what you do?
For me personally, I pull from a lot of different components of religion. Like, I look at Buddhism to have a lot of philosophy that I resonate with, but I wouldn't say I'm religious about it. I take the things that work for me, I discard the things that don't.
Yeah.
I was raised in a Christian household, and Jesus was a very important figure in my household. And to this day, is still a very important figure in my connection to the concept of unconditional love. I know that different practices of Tantra really look at the Hindu gods. So Shiva and Shakti are gods and goddesses that I pull from, but I wouldn't say I have a religiosity about it. You don't need to have a particular religion to do Tantra. The inside joke is you could ask 10 Tantrikas what the definition of Tantra is, and you'll get 20 definitions, because there really just isn't one. I find that Tantra is what is needed for your path and your growth and your personal exploration, rather than this like blanket statement of Tantra is this thing.
You know, that actually aligns with my idea of spirituality. You have your own relationship with source, with creator, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
And that relationship might not, mine doesn't look like Laz's. It doesn't look like yours. It doesn't look like
Mhm.
Joe Blow down the streets. And it's important for us to actually have a personal relationship with the spirit, as well as a personal relationship with our bodies, specifically
Mhm.
with our bodies, because so
Mhm.
many people have said, and I've gotten this, well, you're spiritual, you shouldn't be so sexual. Have there been times when you felt you had to choose between the sacred self and the full sexual, sensual self?
No, for me, it's all one and the same. If I'm in that mindset of having to pick either or, I'm
Ooh.
already off the path that is for me the path towards enlightenment. Which, what I mean by that is, my desire in this lifetime is to achieve inner unity. And if you're familiar with parts work, we have all these different parts of ourselves that want all these different things. And as the higher self, my goal is to try to get them all on the same page.
Bring them all together.
So when you put this sacredness as separate from sexuality, you're dividing the oneness that is my goal to aim towards. So if I'm doing that by definitions of to miss your mark, I'm sinning, if we want to bring a religious term. I always live going back to that
Yeah.
term, because sin doesn't necessarily mean this wrongdoing in the eyes of God. That's what I was taught as a young 13-year-old impressionable Christian.
Yeah.
But what I've learned now is it means to miss the mark. And again, one of the principles in the Condor approach that I've always really loved is it's not good or bad. Is it functional or dysfunctional for your goal? There's times where if my goal is to get a dopamine kick off of sugar, then eating a piece of cake is functional for that goal. But if my bigger goal is I want to feel good in my body, then I might have to go, ooh, I had cake yesterday. If I have cake today, will I still feel good in my body? If I don't feel good in my body, do I have ways to integrate that information and go, okay, maybe day 3 is not a cake day. Maybe we're doing something else to reduce an inflammation, like a fast. Like bringing it back to sacred and sexuality, I am a firm believer that in a tantric way of life, you're able to do a both and more. The concept of non-duality is it can all happen at the same time. but it's the matter of what is the viewpoint that we hold on it. And if we have the frequency or shame programming inside of us, it is no surprise that people are going to start going, you can't have both and more, you can have either or. And it's like, that's when we start looking at that shame piece.
I've often said if either is an option, neither is an option, and both is an option.
Mm-hmm.
Both.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, my partner and I are aiming to put a workshop on this weekend and maybe bring it back again in like September or October for anybody that wants to reach out. We call it Touch as Ritual. And it's really about bringing the sacredness to sensuality. We're not necessarily going into a lot of sexual componentry in this because we want to open it up for people that are just looking to maybe bring their friends and have a more sensual experience with massage, or couples. Ideally, people are walking away with understanding that touching your partner in an act of worship can be just as religious of an experience as going to Catholic mass and doing the whole drinking of the wine, eating of the bread, up and down on knees. There's so much power in the ritual aspect that we just give away without realizing. And if we bring that back to us, that's where it's like, that's where the merging of the sacred and the sensual or sexual can really come into play, is that power, that choice that you have in that power to call it back.
I'll just say for me, in my experience, I know the retreat me and wifey came to with you wasn't the one that you're talking about this weekend, but my experience with slowing down and doing those sorts of things has been way more spiritual for me than how I grew up worshiping and doing ritual. So another thing that comes up for me, what we were talking about, parts work and integrating all these different parts, was a hierarchy of esteem, landing on the side. What have you had to heal inside of yourself to get here where you are now?
Yeah. One, I want to exclaim first that like it's a journey. I don't know that I'm at a destination with it yet, but I would say for me, the layer of onion, I'm like, oh, I thought I solved this. Here I'm back around for the next layer of depth. Was my relationship to codependency within my romantic partnership. I'm going through that layer again. And I think that ultimately the thing that I've learned that I want to keep reminding myself of is my relationship to codependency, or any of the things that I'm going through on my quote healing journey, is going to take time, and find a way to enjoy the process. Like there's times when I'm having some sort of a difficulty with my partner and I'm outsourcing all of my power to them, and I'm helpless and powerless and I just need them to fix it. But remembering, like, I chose that. I'm going to find some sort of gratitude in it. And at first I thought, and I still have this question of myself, is like, am I gaslighting my other emotions? And sometimes the answer is yes. And my body will give me that ping. And I get to then go into my body and feel the sensation and start teasing the story apart and just get comfortable with that sensation. And ultimately, then I find that whatever contraction I was probably having within the codependent framework that I was operating in starts to kind of dissipate. I start to feel a sense of expansion again. And then there's this level of hope. And I'm finding that healing and hope really have some sort of a relationship that I'm still discovering what that means for me. But I don't always love the like, I'm healed, healing, like dichotomy, because on one hand, we're already whole and complete. There's nothing to fix. But on the other end, it's like, yo, I got 99 problems.
Feeling ain't one.
And I'm all of them.
Yeah, but also using that word is mutual context, and a lot of people understand it or get what people mean when they're using that word.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and
Yeah.
if you are looking to be healed, then the universe will show up as a doctor. And it's just like if you're looking to learn, the universe shows up as a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we're talking about connection to the body, we're looking for that spiritual ping. So, yeah, if you have a ping for some chocolate cake, maybe, what, go deeper into it. What aspects of the chocolate cake are you really interested in?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like is it the entire piece of cake? Maybe it's just some icing. Maybe you just want some fudge, you know? And I have had that experience. And even recently, I've been on a low to no sugar kick. But for the past 2, 3 days, I was having these odd cravings for some fudge. And I was like, okay, that's odd because I do have an I gave myself a little bit of dark chocolate because I have some good high quality dark chocolate. And I was like, okay, so I'm just craving chocolate. But no, it was the mouth feel of the fudge, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so I went and got, a little $3 hot fudge sundae, just the way I like it. And I wasn't planning on eating the whole thing. I actually ate like 3/4 of it, which was, actually, I was like, can I just take the fudge out? But then I was like, no, you want the mouthfeel of all of this so that you understand. And it's giving me some feedback on how my sugar cravings have changed because it didn't taste the same. It felt the same, it didn't taste the same. And I think it's important for us to key in that if the body's craving something, if the body is craving touch, then there's something that it's looking to heal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, we haven't had this in a while. And maybe it's just the endorphins, maybe it's just the serotonin, being able to be touched or to touch and be touched. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe if you lean into it, you'll see, okay, well, I'm looking for a specific type of touch. Just like when people say, I want to get off, what does that mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you want a full stroke, sometimes you just want a little tickle. There's so many different things. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that with the tantric movement, we're leaning more into people being open to, intimacy isn't sex and sex isn't intimacy. Sex can be an intimate act, but it could also be a very cursory act.
Mm-hmm.
It could be clinical, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I know about that,
Clinical
Clinical,
tantra.
yeah,
I don't know if that has quite the ring to it yet.
but
Clinical counselor, that sounds
when I
like an
say
oxymoron.
but when I say sex can be clinical, it is just like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and I know that you're gonna have that experience.
Mm,
I'm not, and there's no real connection. You know,
sure. And
I might as well be snapping.
that was the relationship that inspired me to go to ayahuasca. I was just going through the motions and having quote clinical sex as we're putting it.
Yeah. Well, it's cursory, it's clinical, it's, there's no connection to it. And
Mhm,
sex without intimacy. Like when people think that sex and intimacy are synonymous, and that goes back to what was happening in daytime and primetime television,
mhm,
we weren't able to say sex. We weren't able to
Yeah.
say that word. But it's like,
mhm.
well, I was intimate with him, or I made love. You know what? You did not make love with the stranger you met on the street.
It's
Chances
crazy.
are you were fucking.
When he's
Yeah.
talking about that, it's interesting. What comes up for me, and this is just what came up for me right now. Like I've had one night stands, right? And I'm thinking, oh, this girl, it wasn't intimate. This girl, it was. It's just
Mhm.
so interesting that you can have that where it was a one-time thing, but it was like, wow. And then this other one was, I mean, yeah, whatever.
My curiosity wants to ask, was like if you remember by any chance the difference, was one because you slowed down and really like savored the experience, or is the other because
No,
it was just like, because
we
that to me
one
is
was
like,
like we actually for a long time there was you could like we liked each other. I could have made that girl my girlfriend at some point, right? But that night we had a hookup. It just was like, and I mean, this is in my truck, like in a gas station parking lot.
Don't
But
sleep on sex and trucks,
no,
because
I don't
I've had some
like
good sex and
this
trucks.
isn't a single. I was in a single cab truck in a gas station parking lot with this girl, and it was like, but there was a lot of like feeling to it. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? It was an intimate experience. But then I'm thinking of this other experience where it was just like, it just, okay, horny, we're going to do this thing and whatever. It wasn't
Mhm.
feeling to it.
Well, there are some times that I've been with a person as a one-off, and because they came so emotionally open and so emotionally vulnerable, that we actually did have a life-changing experience.
Mm.
I've had
Mhm.
those forces of nature moments, I call them, where it's like I'm talking to this one person and then everything else just fades away. So that can happen, and it can be different lifetime or a soul recognition of each
Mhm.
other where you're
Yep.
just like you're instantly connected.
Yep.
And sometimes it happens where you were just supposed to connect in this lifetime for that one time, just to say, "Hey, how you doing? Glad you're here." And it is
Good to see
great.
you again. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've had a couple of experiences like that, but I also do know that there are some people who are just looking to have a certain thing done, and
Mhm.
that's going to be very disconnected, very clinical, and
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like it's a chore, you know?
Mm.
So I'm glad you bring that up. The massage workshop that, or play shop, as my partner and I are calling it, coming up. We're going through all this stuff right now, and we're trying to help couples understand the difference between that clinical approach to touching your partner versus this devoted, more sacred. Not that not both can't have a sacredness to them, but like one of the things that you find in the kink world that I really, really enjoy is the concept of building a scene. And you
Yeah.
have the ability to talk to your partner and go, hey, we both want to have an experience tonight. What do you want to get out of the experience? What do I want to get out of the experience? Where do the things that we want converge? Where do they don't, or where don't they? And the retreat that Laz was talking about, I go into this concept of core desires. And generally speaking, they're going to form as a result of some experiences you had as you grew up. But ultimately, you'll pick like 3 words, and that can start helping your partner understand the type of sexual touch or sensual touch that you really want to experience. And we use the 5 elements approach to our massage play shop so that people can understand what does safe with earth feel like, what does starting to like get the emotions moving with water and the very quick but fluid motions, what is stoking the emotions and getting them all agitated with fire touch, whether it's like erotic or like ticklish. And then what does the emotional body do when we start bringing some anticipatory touch with air? It's that very either like I'm just about to touch you or I'm just lightly touch you, and being able to bring someone's focus to such a specific part of their body with a touch that's so light can be like super super profound for people. And then we
Crazy.
move into that ether space with more Reiki style touch, but
Mhm.
you got to find out along the way what kind of person, what emotional reaction response do you have to your partner doing this? Are you going to tell them, no, don't do it that way? Or are you going to like, ooh, baby, can you bring the scratching back a little bit further? And
Mhm.
now you have depth, a new depth that you didn't have before. And knowing that that is going to change every single time you get to meet your partner over and over and over again. So when people are saying things are stale or stagnant or just not working in the bedroom, my
Shit.
first question is, when's the last time you met your partner as they are right now? Because if you're still meeting the partner that you had 5 years ago that liked, up, down, left, right, yeah,
Hey, B
of
select
course.
start in this mode.
B
So,
select
so
start.
basically, you're still having sex with a dead partner because
Yeah,
your
you're having
partner is
sex with
not
the
who they were
past.
then.
Yeah.
Shit.
And
All right.
So
I think it's interesting to bring that up too, because I think this is from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, but the idea that, penis holders look for something, it's like, this is great. I hope it never changes. Women, vulva holders will look at a situation and say, this is great. It could get better. And so then there's that clash of wills there because it's like,
Mhm.
well, that worked yesterday or that used to work, and I've grown since then.
Penis
Mhm.
holders have that too.
I didn't say it didn't.
Okay.
If we're talking in that general, it gets us
Who's
into trouble.
who's in victim mode right now?
Victim.
This
Oh,
is
okay,
one of the
damn.
things that I really like. I love coming back to tantric philosophy and understanding like we live in a dualistic world where language is unfortunately limited by binaries: male, female, masculine, feminine, man, woman. Like that's just one large subset. We also can look at age in a different way where it's just birthed, just died. We can look at it in terms of good and evil, which is the primary way that we've divided the world into the us versus them, because us
Yep.
good, them bad. But I love Tantra because it reminds us of the non duality of things. It's all the same coin, it's all that oneness, and they all can express at different times. And the thing about when it comes to relationships, especially that start to walk the spiritual path together, you're going to come in like some sort of contact with polarity language.
Right.
And I recently got introduced to the divide that's happening in Austin with this, that I'm like, that's not surprising, but I'm like curious to see where it'll go. But you have these
Other than
staunch
the north-south divide, because there's a huge divide between North and South Austin.
I
But
mean, if we're
Oh,
talking about geographic location, yes. But
okay.
in the spiritual community, there's like these staunch, I don't know what I even would call this philosophy yet, but like staunch polarity people that are like men need to be masculine and women need to be
Oh,
feminine
yes.
so that things
Yes.
can work. And then you have this other belief that it's like, no, there's a level of like fluidity to it. Like you're going to probably lean in one direction more heavily than another. And that doesn't necessarily mean masculine people will be in male bodies or feminine people will be in
Right.
female bodies.
And
So,
you find people that complement you. So it's not like
yes,
you're looking for anything to complete you because that is codependent. But figure out who you are naturally, and then you
yes,
surround yourself with people that complement who you are.
exactly.
I
Like
think
I would say that I'm a pretty air quote switchy. It's a more kink term,
Yeah,
but I'm a
yeah.
switchy person. There's parts of me that are very masculine and very
yeah,
like go, 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 do, get the
yeah,
goal. There's other parts of me that are very soft and fluid and like just okay, like I'm going to enjoy a man lifting heavy things for me and just
Right.
surrender to that receiving. But whatever that percentage is in me, let's say I'm 40% masculine, 60% feminine, I'm probably going to start orienting around people that do fill in that gap in a different way. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the opposite of 60 masculine, 40 feminine. They might be 70-30. And those overlaps is like, oh, this is where the juice gets to be squeezed, because it's like, who gets to be the feminine tonight in that
Yeah.
area that we both share? And then that's a whole new exploration of depth with your partner. You're like, that's freaking cool. We both like to receive that thing. Cool.
yeah.
And then we bring out the toys.
So what you were talking about, Mandy, at least this is how I see it in my experience. I noticed like people, for example, who grew up like me and you very, Christian, rigid type situation, and then come into this kind of work and then start expanding, but then bring in it's I don't know if it's just like not me wanting to let go of the constructs or it's just an automatic. I need to bring so much of this over here with me and trying to bring the religion into the spirituality and not letting go of some of these things that really, in my experience, weren't functional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my experience with that, both personally and just knowing that I see a lot of ex-cult members that find Tantra to be a really safe space, especially
Yeah.
Mormonism, because a lot of the times sexuality is so shamed in those households that it just makes sense that they're going to like start exploring the opposite side. And then they find somewhere in the middle. But what I find is, generally speaking, there's a book called The Five Personality Patterns, and it talks about the ways that overwhelm can show up in the way that you handle situations when you're in some sort of overwhelm. And rigid is the only one that doesn't track to a nervous system state, which is kind of interesting. So I explored this one a little bit more, but they're the five patterns. You have the leaving pattern, which is going to be a lot like your flight nervous system state. You have the merging pattern, which is going to be a lot like fawn. You have the enduring pattern, which is going to be a lot like freeze. And you have the aggressive pattern, which is going to be a lot like fight. And then the last one is this rigid one. And basically it says, I don't have feelings and emotions per this outside external source that says so. I only have emotions and sensations and experiences that are in alignment with this, whether it be a strict authoritarian like your father, whether it's religion and specifically the Bible, whether it's school figure that you just really take a liking to. It doesn't have to be this like very big, flashy, like cult-like thing. It could be any set of rules that you outsource your sovereignty, your power to. And I find that when people come from these religious spaces, they probably have that as their pattern. And then they move into the either tantric or more yogic Eastern approaches to religion and philosophy.
Mhm.
And they don't really know what to do with the whole, like, you get to be your own authority. It's not this outside authority that you've been like casting or projecting onto your whole life because that's what you were taught. So that's been my experience, is they tend to be a rigid pattern person, and they're not yet in the space of being able to claim their own responsibility, accountability, and be able to get themselves out of harm's way, so to speak.
That's almost like being in flop. It's like, oh, this is new. Yeah.
Being in flop.
Yeah.
Okay.
just I'll just keel over. I don't know what to do. I'll just keel over, you know? That's
Yeah.
that is a really serious thing that people go through, where it's like it's sensory overload and you just shut down.
I would imagine that's like how, if I'm using more quote like clinical terminology, like functional freeze, if you've heard of that term before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I've recently, so Laz asked earlier, like, what is my relationship to depth and being able to progress on my healing path? And right now, one of my all-time favorite things to get geeky about is nervous system states, so much that I made this like set of cards that,
yay!
Yeah, I run a monthly potluck, and an hour to an hour and a half of it's facilitated. And one of the things I have people do is I'll yell out pineapple, and they have to show me where's their nervous system based on like some of those things.
Investigator showing up.
But my favorite,
I love cards. You know, and I'm all about cards and decks and stuff. So
no, I need to like, I need to bring it. I'll need to bring it to the Condor approach in September. The thing that has been really interesting for me is functional freeze, because I'm thinking like, I'm just like fawn. I thought was my go-to way of sourcing safety, but I'm starting to realize my secondary pattern is, as soon as like I can't make other people happy, there comes a point where I just need to retreat and lick my wounds and then not interact with people for some length of time. And that usually looked like doom scrolling on Instagram, or just like staring at walls and thinking I meditate for like an hour. I'm just like, where did that time go? But also realizing like my whole life, I've probably had this level of freeze response, and it's come out in a very interesting way. So if you guys experience freeze as your go-to, I've found in my experience, when I'm in a freeze response, I immediately become really cold. Like, just like I need to go put on a sweatshirt in 80-degree weather in Texas, cold.
You know, I was borderline anemic most of my life. So I just recently, like I was always cold. I
Hmm.
recently found out what it's like to feel hot in Texas. I'm like, I had no idea. So like
Yeah,
what
I
this was.
I
But
know that some of this has been tied to some hormone things. Your thyroid is really
yeah.
a huge component of your temperature regulation. And having body built and done some hormone damage and having to repair that, I got to learn a lot about temperature regulation through that. I'm better now, which means like I want to keep coming back to the importance of the body. When we get into a state of equilibrium, then when things are off, we go, ooh, I don't think I'm getting sick. I think this is
Yes,
a freeze response coming online. Okay,
exactly.
environment, what is causing my nervous system to go into some sort of sympathetic state? Whereas before, if I was cold, I'd be like, oh, let me just put on a sweatshirt, not
Right.
realizing, oh, my body's trying to tell me something.
Mhm.
Exactly. And it's interesting because when you were talking about that freeze response, for me, it's been sensory overload. So I love having choices. Give me two or three, that's great. If it gets above five, then I'm lost
Mm.
because nothing, nothing has a strong enough pull. And being two-spirit, multi-spirited, there is a conversation inside here that is like, well, this would be good. Well, this would be good. Well, there's good points over here and there's good points over here. I can do that when there's two or three, but when there's so many, it's just like I don't know, and
Analysis paralysis. I
yeah.
love that term. I relate to it so well when overwhelmed, for sure.
So getting back, this has been really wonderful, and thank you so much for spending time with us. I wanted
Mhm.
to ask you, when you're creating sacred space, we've had lots of fun here. Is it a serious thing when you're creating sacred space? Is there a lot of pomp and circumstance? Is it, are you still allowing room for personality when you're creating these
Uh,
spaces?
one of my many parts is the jester, and I love bringing my jester into sacred spaces because one, I like putting people into a level of discomfort that I'm willing to hold them through. So I've definitely had people reflect back to me like, "Oh, you made a joke during this, that, or the other," and like I thought that was kind of edgy, and I'm like, "Ooh, tell me more." Like, and it offers a conversation. Number one, for depth that I think can be really useful, but two, it does show the fact that like your personality is welcome here. You are welcome here. All parts of you are welcome here. And if today you're coming in with that mischievous little smile and like you just want to like kind of wreck shit, then awesome. I want to celebrate that. And if you're coming in this very like somber, quiet, reserved, peaceful, whatever state we want to call the like going to Catholic mass state, like that is also welcome. One of the other things that I do often in my ceremonies is I have them do something weird during the opening ritual just to show them like, hey, this is okay. Like one of the things in the couples retreat is I literally have them just spin around and fall down as a commemoration to one of the directions. So being able to introduce that sense of play invites your inner child to come out. If you have children, it now starts to show them like it doesn't have to be this big serious thing. It can be fun and playful, which is what kids are. And lastly, being given the permission to understand that you can bring any flavor to a sacred space if you're bringing it with the right mindset. Like if you're just doing this to like purposely perturb people in ways that they did not ask or invite, then we're not being as mindful about the creation of bringing that play into a sacred space. Uh,
Mhm.
if we are doing it with that intentionality, with that concern or regard for people's experience and being able to account for whatever, if we want to call it harm, if there's any injury both to ego and to themselves in other ways, if you're able to then hold that space, then I think that I've done my job as a facilitator in showing like, hey, we could be mischievous, and if that bothers you, let's also play in that as well and see like maybe we can introduce that this is a new thing to you, and it's going to make your nervous system go, "Ugh." How do we like bring safety to that? Go, I'm not dishonoring God because we did a few twirls in the middle of this. And if we are, let's explore it.
Facts. Like, ain't God fun too? Shit.
So, what are you creating right now, and who are you working with?
Yeah. So right now, I've already mentioned it, but I'm creating a massage play shop with my partner Rogue. We were friends for 2 years, turned it into a romantic partnership, and now we're trying to create some of the spaces that I've always really enjoyed with my partner, which is understanding touch as ritual, being able to understand attunement to your partner so that you're able to achieve a harmonious sensual or sexual experience with them, a more holistic, as Paul Marx said, a not clinical version of sex. We want it to be a more holistic, more spiritual, more connecting, or depth like experience. Some other things that I'm still working on. I am a servant of medicine. I focus on mushrooms and bufo. And also, I'm an integration coach. So, should you have challenging experiences in your medicine experience, you are welcome to reach out to me. I apply the Condor approaches. I'm also trained with Third Wave. I'm trauma informed. And yeah, so those are the three things. We got a massage workshop, I serve medicine, and I'm an integration coach for medicine experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's find out a little bit more about Rogue. I almost wish that Rogue was here with us. You've said some things about him being mischievous and playful. So, how is that showing up in your relationship and in your business relationship?
For sure. So personally, we have a lot of switchy energy between us. So that can look like 1 minute he's starting out as daddy and the next minute I'm choking him. Like, so the switch energy can go back and forth really, really quickly. I think that our depth and our capacity to attune to each other just allows for that playfulness to like naturally emerge, where some people would be worried like, oh, am I going to offend my partner if I do this? Or like, do I have to like walk on eggshells with that? It's like, nope, we are just going to try it. And if we don't like it, we know the other person will say something. So, in terms of personal energy, is very much go with the flow to the present moment. It can shift because he's a dad. So, sometimes I'm acting as domestic partner, and sometimes we're in those more medicinal recreation spaces. So, that's another way that we introduce play is working through those extremes of being responsible, caring for children to being children responsible for our play. In terms of business, being able to create the workshop has been really, really beautiful. It first helps me understand some of my limitations and how I'm not always so playful with my partner when I get frustrated. So it's been an invitation to explore our work styles and figure out how do we invite more play. One of the things that we now do is we'll take a break every 20 or 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and I'll just call it like our creative corner space because I have a puddle set up in my corner, and it's like we're just going to go over there for 10 minutes and connect, whatever that means. Winky face. So that's another way that we'll introduce that play. And yeah, I think that addresses it.
Honoring that playfulness in ceremony and in life,
The way that we show up in life is the way that we show up in our containers. I don't want to give anyone the impression that it's just this very somber space. We are very playful and mischievous. We want people to realize that they can be just as playful and mischievous. They can give themselves that permission.
What does it mean? What does it mean to say the real work starts after the ceremony?
So you can have insights during medicine, maybe right after medicine, and you can have this beautiful dream, but if you don't anchor it into reality, then the work never really got done. You just had a really beautiful hallucination, maybe a beautiful dream, some sort of beautiful insight. But one of the things that I like to talk about in terms of chakras, and I know that Paul Mark is all about the chakras. Your third eye being the thing that gets all that information, you eventually have to bring that down into the root. You have to bring
Yeah.
it down into this physical plane.
Yep.
And one of the things that I talk about in some of my coaching, I like to think of the four quadrants in a triangle shape. It's kind of a little odd, but you have this one singular point. We call that the non duality. That's a spiritual space that gets divided into the unseen mental space and the seen physical space. And all of that energy that's in motion is our emotion. So that's our fourth quadrant. And being able to take the mental creation that you had in this aha of the medicine experience, you got to bring it into that physical so we can get that integration. And
Mhm.
integration doesn't happen in one single moment. It starts with one single step for sure, but it doesn't stay there. It takes multiple steps and eventually it becomes an embodied practice, whatever that thing is. If you are currently not a business owner, you get this big idea in medicine space to be a business owner, you're going to have to take multiple steps before you're in the identity of owning a business, running a
Mhm.
business, and growing a business. So if you stop after the first step of, I had the idea that I'm a business owner, people are going to be like, okay, where's the business? You're not the
Right.
business owner yet. So
Mhm.
that's what I mean by the work starts after the ceremony, because that idea is just the first step or maybe the second step in a series of many, many steps.
And some businesses or some things that people call businesses are actually very expensive hobbies. So that happens too, where it's just like, this is something I enjoy doing, and I would be doing it for free. And look, I'm paying to be able to do it. One of the things that I really wanted to touch on, because thank you for mentioning the chakras, and with the third eye, when people say that in order to be intuitive and to be spiritual, we have to cut off the sexual. And that is a huge disservice to the body because the sacral actually balances with the third eye. And within
Mhm.
the sacral, you have that sexual energy. You also have creative energy. So
Oh, yeah.
anytime you see artists that are like so asexual because all their energy goes into their art, they're still off balance. You want someone who is balanced in that chakra, and that chakra balances with the third eye, and that's when
Mhm.
everything works. And they connect through the heart. So they're actually connecting through everything, but it's so
Mhm.
important that these two are balancing with each other.
Ooh.
Yeah. One of the things that came up in my ayahuasca ceremony was that I had like zero passion for life anymore. That is a very second chakra themed idea. The
Yeah.
fact that my passion for life, I didn't know what I wanted to create anymore.
Mhm.
And that creation energy in a physical manifestation is what the sacral can really be about. The third eye is the mental. So it makes absolute sense that one is creating in the unseen, one is creating in the seen. Of course, there's a connection. And then obviously the heart gets connected to the lower and the upper in all regards because of our own like Taurus. So when you
The,
can
the
have
heart
those
is like
balance.
the heart is like Grand Central Station. Everything goes through the heart.
Yep.
And and it's interesting, like the people who are really, really doing well for themselves, working for other people, but in power positions, they may have really, really strong and grounded roots, but they don't have a very active sacral. So they aren't, they definitely will have money. They definitely will always have a place to lay their head and food on the table. But the luxury of it,
Mm.
how much money and what you do with it, how nice the house is that you're living in, how it's decorated. Are you eating pretty food? Are you enjoying the food that you're eating? Is it tasteful? Is it tasty? All of those things are second chakra things. Those are the
Mhm.
sacral. And what happens is, and I've seen on
Mhm.
chakra images where people are, have like, you can't remove a chakra, but it's so tiny that it's barely visible. And it's
Mhm.
because people aren't connecting in those chakras.
That was my issue with ayahuasca. I was not like at that time I was coming out of bodybuilding, a very masculine sport for a woman's body. I'm in a CEO position, type A, very neurotic, like get stuff done. I wasn't having a lot of sex with my boyfriend at the time. I didn't feel very passionate. Like all signs led to like my sacral went from like to like was very, very, very tiny. And any time it came online, I'd immediately get hit with shame. Or like there's only certain ways. It's like if I have a monogamous boyfriend, it's the only way that I can have sex where people will not call me a slut. And it's like that line of belief limited me so much. And now being in, I don't know, I guess year 3 or 4 of this very conscious journey, I'm realizing like, oh no, my power source is my sacral. Human design, I'm a sacral generator. Like, no, I gotta be more in tune with that space of both my energetic body and my physical body.
Don't you have a book at the house? Like, oh no, it said Sacred Slut?
The ethical slut.
The Ethical Slut.
That's the ethical slut. So that is the Bible for ENM, ethical
Oh,
non-monogamy.
you have that book too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I first
Yeah.
look, she led me through Bufo a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
And I saw the book on the shelf. I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a couple of doozies on there.
Well, anytime you're dabbling in polyamory and all, multiple partners, it's been, it's kind of been rebranded as ethical non-monogamy because
Mhm.
there are some people who are doing it unethically as well. So,
For
in
sure.
order to do it the healthy way, using air quotes, then you do want to talk about relationship style, how you're and everything is negotiated. And
Hmm.
one of the things that I've noticed about polyamorous containers is there is like people think, yo, you're polyamorous, you're having sex all the time. It's like, no, we're actually talking all the time. And there's a lot of emotional heavy
Hmm.
lifting because
Hmm.
people bring their traumas into the relationship. And in order for the health of the relationship, they have to be dealt with.
I can
And
imagine
Hmm.
what it's
looks
like
like
to
a
deal with.
whole lot of talking. What was
I
that?
can imagine what it's like to deal with jealousy, I mean, anxiety, all that stuff that comes up in choosing to be in that sort of container. Like, you're going to have to transmute a lot of shit.
And then
Hmm.
bringing on compersion as well.
Hmm.
What?
Bringing on compersion. So compersion is where your heart is filled by seeing your partner happy and fulfilled.
Oh, okay. Mhm. So, Mandy,
Yeah.
I had a realization, one of those insights that I'm integrating right now, heavy during Bufo a couple weeks ago, that my life is not performance. So,
Mm.
how do you spot when healing is turning into performance?
Excellent question. So, one of the first things that I try to identify when somebody is coming to me for medicine is what are they working on and what is the blockage to being able to move forward in whatever you're working on? Because oftentimes when people are coming to medicine, as long as they're not coming for the recreational component and they're coming for some sort of deep, profound insight, it's usually because they're blocked somewhere. So the first thing I'm asking is like, where are you blocked? And from there, I start getting a history of what have they tried, what have they done, and what has motivated them to make these changes to begin with. Because that's probably like this thing that I identify or clue into the most is like, what is the why behind why you want to change? Is it because you want to do it to make other people happy, or are you doing it to make yourself happy? And happy can be defined by whatever goal you're trying to achieve and finding success in that. The way that I'll identify whether it's performative or not first we'll start with, why are you doing it? If you're doing it for others, then there's a level of performance that might be happening. That's not 100% across the board. It's just my first like, ooh, let's clue into this. The next thing I'm going to clue into is, are they actually taking time between their medicine sessions, or are they just trying to do session after session after session? Because if you have this profound insight, but then take no action on it, and then decide you want to do medicine again, something is telling me that you think the doing of the medicine is the healing, and therefore we're now in the performance of healing, because you're not making any actual changes or shifts in your life to have a different outcome. Because ultimately, if we look at we'll say a healing equation, so to speak, is your inputs determine your outputs. If you don't like your outputs, look at your inputs. And obviously, there are tons of variables that go into your inputs. I always like to look at, how are you breathing? How are you eating? How are you sleeping? How are you watering your body? How are you moving your body? Those are some of the more important elements. And once those have a good consistency or baseline to them, we can then start getting into some other spaces of what health might mean to that individual. But ultimately, I'm losing the thought, but we'll just say that the next thing for performance is when we get on a call and we're going into that accountability step, are they actually doing the things that either they came up with as target behaviors, or like, am I having to hound them or nag them? And not nag, because I'm not, it's not, but that wouldn't be a term I would use. I'm like thinking of my boyfriend right now, switching language over to client. I'm not necessarily nagging, but I am saying, hey, you said this was important. Is it still important? And that question can sometimes be like really like for a person. So yeah, first thing is, are they looking at change for someone else or for themselves? Are they just going to medicine over and over without actually doing any work? And when we're on those calls, what is their progress towards the behaviors that they're attempting to do? Obviously, if they're not doing it over time, then the question is, do we need to break it down into smaller steps and see if that's the restriction? But ultimately, if they're just coming to the call to get validation that they're still in a crap position, that would be another red flag of like, this is more performance. I just want to pay that I have a coach and can say that I have a coach, but I want to actually change. So yeah.
And it's all about recognizing the magic in life, and sometimes that magic is hidden. So, what are you doing, or how do you hold space for a person who is still in the thought pattern of, I need to earn this?
When you say earn this, like earn their transformation, earn their healing?
Earn their healing, earn their pleasure, earn all of it, where it's very transactional.
Well, one, I'm going to tell them, first off, I'm also on that path. There's times where I realize my inherent worth and I feel like I've broken free of the programming or the conditioning that kept me small. But understanding that in my own personal depth exploration, this pattern still keeps coming up. So just because I'm not small in one place doesn't mean I'm not smalling myself in other places. But also, will you ask that question again?
How are you holding space for people that are still in the mindset of having to earn their?
Yeah, there has to be a place of compassion. I had a teacher that said, if something isn't going to shift in 10 minutes, it's not ready to shift. So being able to hold space and just explain to people, hey, this will shift when you're ready for it to shift. You being in the thick of it, just sitting there and not doing anything, might be the medicine that you need right now. And that's hard, but I'm going to stick with you in this hard. I'm going to hold you, whether it be physically, if we're in the medicine space and they need that, or energetically, or even just during the call. I'm going to hold that with them and remind them of their strength and keep bringing them back into places of comfort in their body so that they can go back to the places that are uncomfortable. One of my favorite exercises to do with people in those situations is to have them draw the contracted feelings that they're having in their body and then think of a time that they had expanded feelings in their body, joy, playfulness, curiosity, whatever we want to call those. And then I have them oscillate, like I have them put their hand on the pleasant side and then the other unpleasant side, and I have them just keep going back and forth. And as I feel them expand, we then dip them back into that place of discomfort to see if we can get them to hold even more. Because ideally, I don't want to hold it for them. I want to hold it with them, sure, but I don't want to hold it for them. But at first, when somebody's going through this healing journey, they might not even be able to tolerate being in that space. And then we have the roadmap to intimacy. We eventually, like, tolerance eventually gets to acceptance and intimacy, sure, but some people can't even tolerate that they're going into their little boy right now and they don't want, mommy to have to take care of them. They're like, I'm a grown adult. Why is this happening? It's like, it is. Let's just be with it.
It just is right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Good
was
thing
such
I
a
like
good
being
thing
a
to go, like,
mommy.
learning to just be with joy and not having to earn it was, oh my gosh.
Yeah. That Paul Mark had mentioned was like the feeling of having to earn pleasure. That has been one of my biggest like threads in my healing journey, is like, who am I to deserve feeling good in my body? Like, who am I to deserve enjoying insert whatever thing here? Who am I? Like, I've asked that question of myself, and the answer when I first
The
asked
answer
that
is always, who are you not to have it?
one,
Yeah.
I've start to ask better questions.
Like,
But at the
why me? Why
beginning,
not you? You know?
yeah, at the beginning, I was just like, oh, because I'm bad, broken, wrong, not enough or too much. I was in that shame space. Now there's still that echo, but what I'm realizing, or what I'm trying to step into, so this is why I say, like, I'm in the transition of this. I haven't arrived at a pit stop yet, but as I'm feeling these difficult emotions, how do I still try to keep pleasantness of my experience and trying to find something to be grateful for in that experience? Because ideally, I want to live from a place where I'm even keeled and grateful all the time. But I got to kind of gaslight myself a little bit along the way to go, Mandy, I asked for this. Let's be grateful for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Same with
So,
the position space. I encourage people, hey, you might not have consciously asked for this, but part of you unconsciously did. What if we like gave them some presents right now? Both presents as in like being there, but also presents as in like a gift.
I love a gift. I do. I do. I really do. And it's because I like an act of service. And when I
Mhm.
can look at other things as an act of service, then it actually fills up my love tank.
Mm.
Is that your number one love language? Acts of
Yeah.
service?
Actually, gifts and acts of service tied for first place. And so when I really got into it, I was like, well, I'm looking at the gift as an act of service. That's what I'm doing.
I don't necessarily want to go too far down the love languages trail, but like what I realized is all of them feed into another one just seamlessly for me in
Yes.
some way,
Right.
shape, or form. Like for me, quality time has to include physical touch. Otherwise, it's not quality time. So I'm
Right.
like, which one's more, the quality touch or the physical, or say the quality time or the physical touch? Gifts is part of acts of service for you.
Like for me, when I look at a gift, I'm like, okay, you took time out to go shopping for this. You actually thought about me. You considered what was going to be, what was something I liked and all of those other things. So I'm looking at that like that's an ultimate act of service.
Mm,
Now, words, I'm like, you can say anything, but
right.
when you actually go about doing something,
Mhm.
and touch is right in the middle. I could take it or leave it, um, but I do know how to speak that language and I do know how to receive that language when I'm open to it. But
Mhm.
again, if someone says as an act of service, you've been working hard. Let me give you a massage or let me buy you a massage. then I'm like, ching, yeah, let's do it.
And
So
you make gifts.
yeah, yeah. So that's a whole thing. And I've often thought about like I used to tell my husband that it doesn't even have to be an expensive gift as long as the gift is for me. So when it comes to, it could be as simple as a candy bar, but if it's my candy bar, if it's the one that is my favorite, it's presented in a way, I saw this and I thought of you, then yeah,
Mm.
I can see all it.
Gifts is generally speaking, like that is probably my most spontaneous language. If I see it, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. But the idea of like when people's birthdays come around, you have to find something like in a timed kind of a way. I'm just like, ugh, I don't love this. But like
Now,
the other day, like my partner, I had noticed that like a friend of ours and I both have snake earrings, and we are brought up in a lineage of cobra breath. So snakes are really important to us. I was like, he needs a pair of snake earrings. Like he needs something. And I found a pair of snake earrings that make it look like the snake is going through your ear. So it's kind of like a fake gauge kind of a look. And that's his thing. So I found these earrings. I'm like, I can't wait. And like, I totally didn't put them away. I was gonna like give them randomly at some point in the future, but he comes over and he's like, "Oh my God, these earrings are so cool," and he
well,
loved it. I was gonna surprise him. There's a black snake ring and silver snake earrings that I got him, and he loved it. I wouldn't say gifts is my natural language, but when I get inspired, I'm like, "Oh, I can't wait to see the look on their face."
Mm.
Yeah.
I have a friend that is very anti-establishment just in general. And so she's told me, you will never get a Christmas gift or a birthday gift from me, but you will get random gifts when I see something that's for you. And I was like, okay, gift is a gift.
Oof.
That's it frees us up because now it wasn't just because it was expected. It wasn't because it was going to
Hmm.
be transactional. It was, hey, I really thought about you. And
Hmm.
this
Yeah.
is makes it more genuine.
Yeah. I'd
Yeah.
rather those gifts any day than getting a gift on my birthday and Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I swear, like when I started to unravel holidays, birthdays, all these constructs that everybody is on, like I had to come to a point where I'm like, this is the world I live in. I have wife, kids, extended family, and it's okay. Because I was checked for a minute there. The enemy was checking out of all that shit. Like, fuck these holidays.
Well, I
It's
have
so
my
funny.
own holiday, so I celebrate Paul Mark Appreciation Day as well as my birthday, as well
Yeah,
as Christmas, and as well as so many other things.
yeah,
Like I'm looking for reasons to celebrate
yeah,
because there's enough bad stuff in the world. Let's
yeah,
celebrate some good things, you
yeah,
know? So I'm all for a holiday as an excuse to have a party or as an excuse to celebrate and have a good
yeah.
time.
That joy thing, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was it was a
Let's
doozy.
let's find the joy.
Right.
So Mandy, how are you making spiritual spaces more welcoming, a little or more weird or more real?
yeah. So one of the things that I clued in to when I first started getting into the medicine world was there weren't a lot of spaces for couples. One, I understand there is a time and place that you go and do solo work. Absolutely no issue there. But sometimes you also want the safe space of being able to do medicine with your partner and be welcome in whatever that expression looks like, whether that's the emotional fighting component, if we're looking in a more like dysfunctional, unpleasant kind of a space, or if we're moving into those more sexual, romantic, connected spaces. I didn't see a space for that. Number two, in the tantra world, especially in Austin, a lot of the trainings that I go to are very like out in the open. And depending on what your comfort with your body being naked or in any way expressing, like you might be making your orgasm sound in front of 30 strangers. And like it's just deeply uncomfortable. And one might say there's a place and space for that kind of growth. But couples that are in a more conservative mindset or a more closed off mindset, they're not going to go to those spaces to learn some of these things.
Yeah, or if you have one person who's been doing a lot and then one person who hasn't, one person may be ready for that open space, but the other isn't.
Exactly. So seeing a convergence of there being no medicine spaces, but also there being like you're doing this with 40 other random strangers, I wanted to create a more intimate vibe. So with the couples retreat that Laz was on, it was two couples and we're doing some combination of medicines to elicit the heart opening effects of what we were trying to create in that space so that you can connect to your partner and feel the energy and maybe get into some of those more etheric spaces. And then also allowing them to have private bedrooms was a big thing for me because again, you're going to learn all these tools in the more open setting, but as soon as we're inviting you to either demo them with each other, experience them with each other, you now have this private space that you can shut your door and be able to have that privacy. And just for like disclaimer, the agreement is always I can enter at any point, but generally speaking, as long as I knock and you guys say everything's okay, I'm going to leave you to your peace. Because again, we want to invite people into feeling safe and privacy of their data, both the physical seeing their data and also the experience of their internal data. We want them to have the privacy that makes them feel safest. So that would be how I've approached some of these challenges that I've seen within that spiritual space. Did I answer the question?
Yes, you did.
Highly recommended.
And
for real.
The one thing I will say about that version of the couples retreat, ideally, I'm going to be running them every other month once my partner and I get some of the last details sorted out. But ultimately, if you're interested in doing this work with another couple as a friend, I highly recommend doing it that way. We have the space for two couples at any point. So if this is something that sounds of interest to you, please don't hesitate to reach out.
That's how we did it.
So how do we reach out to you? How do our listeners find you?
Yeah, Mandy Witters on Instagram, Mandy with a Y. I like to ask a lot of questions. And then also you can find me on my website, mandywitters.com. There are multiple areas where you can either contact me for coaching services or if you just have an inquiry. But those would be the two easiest ways to get a hold of me. My email is also on my website.
Excellent.
Cool. So what would you like to give our audience permission to do?
What would I like to give your audience permission to do? I want to give them the permission to use their breath in this moment by taking 3 deep, fully encompassing belly, chest, shoulder, expansive breaths. And on that first breath, just ask your body, what does it want to feel right now? Holding at the top, seeing if any answers come. And exhale. And if something came, explore it more on this breath. If nothing came, just see if there's anything that comes as you inhale and hold. And exhale one more time. Inhale one more time. Just keep asking yourself that question and seeing what comes. Exhale. And if in those 3 breaths something came to you that would be pleasurable, feel free to go do it right now. Give yourself 5 minutes. Maybe it's you want to drink your favorite electrolyte water. That's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's you want to go pet your cat, because that's also what I now want to do. But using that time, those 3 deep breaths, if it didn't arrive to you then, taking 3 more deep breaths, just give yourself permission to feel pleasure in this moment. Even if you're feeling sad, even if you're feeling angry, even if you're feeling in some other way unpleasant, find something that can feel pleasurable, because that can shift your mindset for the rest of the day. That's why I want to keep coming back to, like, what am I trying to create? Do I want to create this cramped, condensed, contracted experience right now? No. Okay, let me pull back my awareness, right? And let that stream of, like, okay, I want to create joy. I want to create connection. I want to create something. And then you take another breath and let that expand as a physical scan and see if there's a story getting paired with that sensation. So that's the permission is pleasure, because I know that lots of things are tied to the sensation of pleasure for me. And if we can keep reminding ourselves to come back to that place, then it's just going to birth more of that in your life.
Yay. Well, thank you so much, Mandy, for joining us here in the portal. And I want to give you all permission to enjoy and to love yourself completely, and to allow yourself to be your fullest sacred and sexual self. Thanks for joining us here in the portal, and please like and follow for more. Share with a friend, because sharing is caring. Check out our links in the description. Share this with a friend. Maybe if you have some questions or topics that you want us to cover, then send them out to the permission portal at gmail.com. And remember,
The portal is always open.